Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football Deal with the national championship game wrapped up, with the transfer portal largely getting wrapped up as well. I feel like we got a good sense of what these teams are going to be heading into 2026. And on a Tuesday night, let's have a little bit of fun. Way too early. Top 25 rankings heading into 2026, but they'll hand up the full acknowledgement that there are some major dominoes that still need to fall. I mean, Jordan Seaton, does he end up at LSU? Does he end up at Oregon? Look, LSU lands Jordan Seaton and Prince Will Hugh. LSU's looking a little bit different. You could talk me into them being a top 5 team in the country heading into 2026. Miami with Darian Mensah. That might be the biggest domino. I mean, you tell me Darian Mensah's on Miami in 2026, and I mean, they are comfortably a national championship caliber team going into 2026. Now, if he is not, I don't know if Miami has a ton of answers at the quarterback position. So we still got some dominoes to get figured out. But as we sit right now, the way too early top 25. Now, before we get into it, open invitation. Let it fly in the comment section. I am fully prepared to stand in the paint and take some heat in the comment section. That's the best part about doing this episode is really two things. Number one, y'all just letting it rip and us talking ball in the comment section. Number two, everybody gets a little bit of a chance to call their shot. So call your shot in the comment section. Appreciate you guys. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. I promise you, my feelings will not get hurt with some ball talk in the comment section. Let's start off with a hot take. Kind of started this one off with a bang. Marcus Freeman, Notre Dame, my number one team heading into 2026. And I guess I'll give you the T-box here. Am I a little bit too high on Notre Dame in 2026?
No, I don't think so. And what's holding me back from really jumping on the Notre Dame train fully is kind of what was holding me back with Clemson. Like last year, Clemson felt like a team that had everything in place. Yeah. But Notre Dame hasn't quite gotten to that point, I feel like, where I haven't seen them, I guess, field an elite team yet.
I mean, they did make a run to the national championship 12 months ago.
Again, not like taking anything away, but that team was very far, it felt like, from Ohio State. Like even
how about this year then? I mean, and not to I hand up.
No, that's 100%. I agree with that. Like everything about them on paper feels elite. Like there aren't holes. Their offensive line's been together and really good. You finally have a quarterback and a really explosive offense. But I still feel like I'm in like a little bit prove-it place. And frankly, I'm kind of there with Texas and Oregon too. I think both those schools have tons of talent, but we haven't seen them field an elite, high-performing team that like game in, game out dominates.
Yeah, I mean, I would probably just disagree with that, especially when you're talking about Notre Dame. I mean, they had a couple of bounces not go their way. I mean, they lost to on the road in their quarterback's first career start, a team in Miami that played for national championship, and then they lost just a heartbreaker to Texas A&M. They didn't lose a single other game. I could make the argument that if you stuck Notre Dame in that playoff field this year, they're making some noise. And then, Dylan, here's the other thing. I mean, I wouldn't be – in fact, I'm betting on it, them getting better in 2026. Their player retention is absolutely elite. Like Notre Dame does not lose players they don't want to lose, and they were methodical in the portal. They said, hey, where were our biggest flaws? We're going to address those flaws. Here's the kicker for me. Year 2 with Chris Ash. You saw that defense get off to a slower start early. I think they were adjusting to a new defensive play caller. Well, I don't think you have to go through those growing pains in 2026. And I'll say this too, hand up, I'm a believer in Marcus Freeman. I really am. They check every single box.
I agree. On paper, I think they're the best team in the country. I think most complete team. I think, again, they have the high-powered offense now. Again, I still like they lost.
What am I only allowed to include Georgia and Indiana and Ohio State as the number one preseason?
And that is where I feel like I'm being an idiot for sure. Yeah, maybe even like Miami, because if Miami gets Menson, Damon Wilson on this team, yeah, they're going to be a huge problem for everybody. But I still want to see them consistently do it. I feel like we haven't seen them hit that real stride in the Marcus Freeman tenure.
Where they lost 4 games in 2 seasons. I feel like they've been pretty damn consistent. Moving on.
The problem is they do have easy schedules. I think that's very fair to admit. Notre Dame fans may not love hearing that, but that's just a fact. And they're 2 good teams they played this year. Unfortunately, they lost those 2 games. So that, again, I'm with you with Notre Dame being that best team on paper for sure, but they're still Them and Oregon probably especially, and well, Texas too. They're prove it teams to me because those are
So
three.
who would you have as the number one team in the country going into 2026?
I think I'd have Indiana. I think this Indiana team. I know they're losing some good players. They have a ton of young players on that team who are monsters. Like Elijah Hardy,
I
Isaiah Jones, both there. Their defensive line returning a good chunk of what they have. Offensive line returning most of that and adding Joe Bruner. Fernando Mendoza was a huge difference maker, so that's the one big question. Can they replace him? But elsewhere, it's really hard to deny what Kurt Signetti's doing, and he's going to have a more talented team top to bottom, I think, next year.
So you bring up Indiana. I put him at 5, which I think some people think's too low, and some people might think's too high. I think it's just right. And talking about Indiana, I do think you made a good point. I feel like it got blown out of proportion a little bit. And look, it was an old team, no doubt about it. But when you look at that too deep, like there is a fair amount of cats that are coming back, and they got some hitters coming in the portal as well. My big sticking point there is Josh Hoover. I think Josh Hoover might skew a little bit more to Curtis Rourke than Fernando Mendoza in terms of the difference making he can bring to a football team. That's why I have Indiana at 5. They're going to be in that conversation. You make no mistake.
My thinking is I think they'll be more talented around him. I think Indiana now can sell a little bit more. Again, there's also that element that, I mean, he's proven that he knows how to get the best out of his teams. Like you look, Notre Dame, Ohio State, Oregon, 3 teams you have above them, they probably haven't shown that yet. Like Oregon was a far more talented team and is going to be a far more talented team than Indiana. Indiana pants them. And like that to me is like
I think the other thing I like about Indiana and another thing I like about Notre Dame too, quite frankly, is they're the only teams that I have in my top 5 that are running it back with their coordinators. I mean, Kurt Signetti's ability to hold on to those two, elite out of Kurt. All right, Texas. Well, it does make you say it doesn't make sense. I think it does make sense because he's built Indiana into like this destination program.
Oh no, and it's less like I don't know how teams aren't having them be their head coaches. Like how UCLA did not get one of those guys to be their head coach.
Well, I mean, like, look, Tosh Lupo is a good hire, but I think you're out of your mind. If you're a Power 4 program looking for a head coach, I think you're out of your mind not to at least kick the tires there. All right, Texas at 2. Here we go again, right? I had Texas number 1 last year. I have them number 2 this year. I think the offensive line gets better. In fact, you already saw the offensive line start to turn the corner in the second half of 2025. I thought you saw Arch Manning significantly start to turn the corner. Now, I am betting on the offensive line coming together, and I am betting on Arch Manning continuing the track that he's on. Hard to mess up what you have on the outside with Ryan Wingo and Cam Coleman. The defense is it? I mean, you got a new defense coordinator, and we're going to see how that plays out. But I think you have enough firepower on defense to be just fine. It is a top 3 roster in the country. Like you said, like Coach Sark now has to go out and get over the dang hump and win the national championship. Ohio State at 3. I went back and forth. At one point, I had them number 1, kicked them back to number 4, had them jump up Oregon to number 3. I settled on 3. How are we feeling about the Buckeyes?
Yeah, I'd probably have them at 1 or 2. Them and Indiana to me are the teams because again, I'm still convinced coaching is so important in college football. I do think those might be the best 2 coaches in this top 5 if we're looking at it top to bottom.
We're just not included. We just completely forgot what we talked about with Indiana 30 seconds ago.
No, I said that's 1 and 2.
Coach hand up. Sorry.
My bad. 2 at the coach spot. Obviously, I think you have to say Signetti's number 1. I don't really understand how you could argue that right now. But to me, Ohio State, like, yeah, you're running enough back. I think they did a pretty good job sneaky in the portal. I know they have some high-profile losses, but those are depth guys, and it's going to be hard for Ohio State to hold on to every depth piece on their roster. They're going to have Jeremiah Smith. They're going to have Julian Sayin. I think it's going to be a really, really good team again. And they just recruit at such a high level and develop at such a high level. And running back Patricia, I think they'll be really good.
Yeah, I made the mistake last year of maybe putting too much doubt in their ability to reload on defense, and they did that, and they're gonna have to do it again. I mean, best linebacker doing the country is gone. I mean, some of those guys in the middle of that defensive line were dominant. Obviously, replacing Caleb Downs. You are right, though. Like last year, I kind of doubted Ohio State's ability to reload on defense. I'm probably not going to doubt it as much going into 2026. They're going to be right up there, right? And you have a quarterback that's a top 5 quarterback in the country comfortably going into 2026.
And I'm comfortable with them in big spots. And again, like that's what's holding me back from saying, because I think Oregon probably has the most talented team in college football
Really?
next year. What's holding me back is that Dan Lanning in 2 straight playoffs now has laid eggs. And
That's not holding me back. What's holding me back with Oregon's the offensive line a little bit. If Jordan Seaton does not go their way, I mean, you have to replace both your starting tackles. Emmanuel Pregnon, who was awesome at guard, probably the best guard in the country last year. Are we just going to run it? I guess what I'm saying is, do I have the confidence that Oregon's offensive line is going to be up to snuff? Because even last year when they played, I should say this year in 2025, when they played the best defensive fronts on their schedule, probably wasn't good enough, right? Now, you land Jordan Seaton, it kind of changes the conversation a little bit. They do have a young pipeline of offensive linemen that I do like. We'll see if they can replace Isaiah World, Alex Harkey, and Emmanuel Pregnon. Depth on the defensive line is a little bit of a concern too, although Dontre Robinson probably
I
makes
think
me
they'll be
more
fine. I think they can run a
yeah.
pretty good 3 or 4 man rotation.
I feel like Oregon's good. I feel good.
Their starting 4 can play a ton of snaps and not like kind of like what Ohio State did 2 years ago, where they didn't have a ton of depth. They played their front 4 pretty much every snap. But if you're good enough to do it, like that's what you should be doing.
I feel good. I feel really good about my top 5. You can probably fight the order. I feel very good about my top 5.
Miami, to me, is a clear top 5 team if they land those portal kids.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair. I mean, you bring in Damon Wilson, you bring in Darian Mensah. That's probably fair, but I kind of got to put him at 9 right now because I'm not sure. Battling that out in the court. I'll let the courts figure that out. Georgia at 6. Little I'm surprised, because a lot of people are putting out these way too early top 25s. I'm surprised to see Georgia as a consensus top 3 team. I'm not sure if Georgia fixed the problems that they had this year, right? I mean, you return Gunnar Stockton. You have to replace a really good tackle in Monroe Freeling. You have to replace by far the engine of your passing attack in Zachariah Branch. And more importantly than that pass rush just simply wasn't good enough last year. And you're bringing Amari.
I will say, I do think you discount what they can do. And because, again, like we could say similar things about Indiana. I have a lot of faith in Indiana. Like I have a lot of faith in Ndukwe coming in, young kid, and being a stud. I just think that's what Indiana's doing. Georgia has so many talented pass rushers to me in the pipeline that I do think they'll probably get like one of like the Gibsons or Chris Cole, like one of those guys to start getting rolling. And if they have a really good pass rush, secondary might be the best in the country. I think that's a loaded unit. Linebacker still really good. I think this defense could be back to being a real problem. And Elijah Griffin, to me, like we don't talk enough about him, what he could be.
I think you are probably discounting how big of a step needs to get taking place. I mean,
I know there needs to be a big step. It was pretty mediocre.
It needs to be significant, and I feel like this step is not just player development. I feel like the step was we got to add some bodies, and you added one to Morris Williams. I'm just not sure if it's good enough. Again, the top 6 team in the country. They will be in the national championship conversation.
Now that's another coach that feel pretty good when he gets in a big spot. I don't think he's folding.
Yeah, he's always going to get the Kirby bump. Yeah, he's always. I mean, you get the Kirby bump. Kurt Signetti gets the bump, Ryan Day gets the bump, Kirby Smart gets the bump. Right? I think that's fair to say. Mike Elko and Texas A&M
feels maybe a little high.
I think it could be too. You have to replace damn near your whole entire offensive line. If Marcel Reed, and here's the other thing. Here's my big bug with Texas A&M is you have to replace your whole entire offensive line besides your center, and you have to replace an offensive coordinator. And what I think is a very good offensive coordinator, and you're replacing them with a cat that's never caught plays before, Holman Wiggins. And that's a little bit of a concern, right? When you have to
think their defensive line too is one that I'm looking at. Like, they lost the 3 guys who I felt were really dependable for them in Howell, Regis, and Onedum. And again, I think they added some good piece in the portal. I know they've recruited well, but we just haven't. It's very similar to Georgia, except the talent pipeline's not quite what Georgia is, and I don't know if I can totally. And again, Mike Elko, I feel like they got the guy, but I don't know that I have the same blind faith. I'm a Kirby Smart truther. I will ride with him till my death. I don't know that I'm there yet with Mike Elko.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think a lot of Texas A&M fans probably agree with you. I mean, you have seen the steps from year 1 to year 2. We'll see if we get one in year 3, but there are a decent amount of questions with Texas A&M that I'm not sure we have answers to yet. LSU, again, it's very contingent on Jordan Seaton, because if you don't land Jordan Seaton, there are some legitimate concerns I have about the offensive line. If you do land Jordan Seaton, I'm not saying it's the best offensive line in the country. I feel a hell of a lot better about LSU's offensive line. And then you on top of that.
Honestly, ditto for Prince Will, because
Yes,
without him at the pass rush spot, you're betting on only projection. I mean, Jordan Ross was a good player for Tennessee. He can't be your number one, I don't think, right now going into the year, and they may get it out of him. He's clearly talented.
Yeah.
I think LSU right now probably a little bit too incomplete for me. Like, some spots are really good, and then some spots potentially the
now.
two.
Where do you put him if I say Jordan Seaton's playing for LSU and Prince Williams playing for LSU? Because I think they're comfortably. I'd probably jump him over Texas A&M and Georgia.
Nah, I'm not putting them over Georgia yet. I'd probably take them up to like.
Forgot about the Kirby bump. My fault. All right, Miami at 9. I'm just kidding.
Well, I think we talked about. I think we made our point clear on Miami.
No, I got one more point. Is number one, I have significant more trust in Mario Cristobal going into 20. I mean, he's earned that, right? I mean, when you talk about the Kirby Smart bump, there was like a little bit of a Mario Cristobal anchor. You know what I mean? Like, you kind of tempered your expectations because Mario Cristobal needs to put it together consistently. You saw them flip that switch. Gives me more confidence in Mario Cristobal in 2026. The defensive line, I don't think they're going to have as many issues replacing Ruben Bain and Akeem Mesidor as everybody thinks. Do I think it's going to be as dominant as it was in 2025? No, probably not. But when you talk about Blunt and Lightfoot and Hayden Lowe, Scroggins, potentially Damon Wilson coming over too, that pass rush still going to be really good.
They're going to be sick. Their defense line's going to be sick. Their offensive line, I think, is going to be pretty sick.
I don't know if it'd be sick. I gotta wait on the decision of Markel Bell. And I mean, Dill, if Markel Bell goes to the draft, it's Maui Noah, Markel Bell, Brockemeyer at center, and that's, I mean, it's 4 starting offensive linemen that are gone. And I don't know if
you're developing it well. Again, I feel like maybe I'm getting into the LSU trap, if you will, from last year.
That was exactly what I was gonna say. I remember saying the same thing for LSU. Oh, like blind faith that they're gonna get it right. Well, whoa, I ain't gonna make that same mistake again.
But also, hindsight, we maybe needed to take the Brian Kelly anchor and really apply.
Yeah, that could be true.
Not a very good head coach, I don't think. I think that was proven this year because that was a good team.
Texas Tech at 10. Still a good team. I'm a little lower than them on most because I don't know if they reloaded that front 7. I don't think it's going to be the same front 7. And they were so reliant on that front 7 dominating. I still think they're comfortably the team to beat in the Big 12 because they're going to have the best line of scrimmage play in that conference. And I mean, Sorsby's an upgrade from Morton pretty comfortably.
Huge upgrade.
I'm a little bit concerned about, I don't know if they're going to be as dominant in the front 7 as they were last year.
I think their defense takes a meaningful step back personally, because I'm with you. I don't think like Matinik broke, but he's a monster. I think Adam Trick's good, but he is no
David Bailey.
They probably need to land Damon Wilson, honestly. They land Damon Wilson, then we're in a different kind of stratosphere. But just having Mateen and then, again, Adam Trick, like solid, but he's just not in the league of what they had. And then the linebacker spot's probably going to get way worse. Like Austin Romaine's a good player. He is not Jacob Rodriguez. So this is a team I'm probably even a little lower than you. Like I'd probably have a Ole Miss. I'd probably have Oklahoma.
Ole Miss is very contingent. I am high on. Hey, you lock in Trinidad Chambliss, top 10 team. Yeah, 100%.
They're another one that probably like I need to see the rest of this portal shake out because Princeville U matters a lot. Yeah. I'm going to be high on them regardless. I still think this is going to be an awfully talented team.
And I like Pete Golden, man. I was kind of unsure on it. He kind of sold me on what he can be as a head coach. Small sample size did sell me. Oklahoma at 11. You know, what version of John Mateer do you get? That defense should still be, and they got to replace some guys. That defense should still be very, very good. I think the real exciting part, if you're an Oklahoma fan, is that run game and the offensive line. Like, in 2024 was a disaster, maybe the worst offensive line in the SEC. It wasn't good in 2025, but it was better it should be better in 2026. And if you tell me that, well, we're back in that playoff conversation. USC maybe I'll just give you the take. What's your take on USC at 12?
Feels maybe a little high. I mean, I think they'll be good on offense. I think they'll probably take a bit of a step back. I know they're going to return a really good offense, or what could potentially be a really good offensive line. And obviously they'll get Jaden back. I mean, Malachi Lemon, I'm not totally ready to like Makai Lemon. Sorry. Makai Lemon was so good last year and like made up for so much maybe
that's a concern
around him.
Yeah.
Like I know we talk about Jeremiah Smith, Makai Lemon. I'm not sure there's a more impactful offensive player outside of quarterback for a given team because he was a hammer.
The question about what version you get from Jaden without Lemon and Lane is a question. Love a couple of different things. You return your quarterback, you return your whole starting offensive line. I think they'll have enough firepower. I'm not saying it's going to be Makai Lemon and Jacoby Lane, but I think they've recruited that position well enough to be okay at wide receiver. I love the NC State kid coming in, Terrell Anderson.
Yeah.
To me, is this defense that, I mean, I was wrong on USC last year a little bit higher than most because I thought the defense was going to take a step. We don't know at this point. Let me check my phone real quick. Still do not know who the defensive coordinator is going to be for USC. Do they take a step on defense? You know, they're slowly getting the personnel. Is this the year where we take a step? Because I think the offense is going to score. I don't think I'm breaking any news to anybody. Are they going to play defense to the level where they can find a little bit more consistency in 2020?
Yeah, I still think they're like 2 years away from having the personnel. Because again, like I know this class in 2026 that's what it needs to look like. The past 2 or 3 are not those type of classes. So to me, I still think they're kind of like building the personnel up to where I would trust them to be an easy top 20 team.
Yeah. And we'll see if they can we'll see what the new defensive coordinator looks like. Sounds like it's going to be Gary Patterson, which at the very least is going to be a blast.
High risk, high reward, I feel like.
Yeah, and I'm a little with this. We don't have to get into the defensive coordinator hire, but I'm a little bit surprised Lincoln Riley's going there. But it's kind of fun. All right, Michigan at 13, maybe a little bit high. Dill, I mean, Michigan was not bad last year with the true freshman quarterback in an absolute circus with the coaching staff, right? Now you get Kyle Whittingham coming in, and here's the big thing for me. The storyline's not Kyle Whittingham. The storyline's Jason Beck as your offensive coordinator, who I think is one of the best. This is the best offensive coordinator Michigan's had in a very long time. They got a supremely talented quarterback with what I think's a top 5 offensive line in the country, top 10 to be conservative, some difference makers on the outside, very good running back room. My bigger conversation here is what's this defense going to be? And I think I share that for the first time in a long time as a Michigan fan, quiet confidence in the offense, not really sure what the defense is going to be.
Their defensive line good enough as the linebacker? Yeah. Good, deep enough, I'd probably say, for the defensive line. Linebacker, do you have starting caliber players? That's yet to be
14.
Well, I told you. I think Bama and Ole Miss, I'm higher on both these teams.
Sell me on Bama. You don't need to sell me on Ole Miss. I feel a little bit
the Ole Miss bump. Alabama, I think people like, okay, Indiana beat the piss out of them. Indiana's a really, really good team.
Georgia also beat the piss out of them in the SEC championship.
They were not getting enough from the quarterback spot towards the end. I think health was starting to become a bit of an issue. And
you think they're upgrade? You think they get better at quarterback next year?
I'm a sucker. You know, I'm a sucker for a good young quarterback, and they do have Keelan Russell coming in, and I also think like they had some really good young offensive linemen. I think that could be a potentially better unit than what it was last year. Like you get some development from Carroll. You got guys like Jack. Like I think you have a good young offensive line pipeline now coming through. Retention was solid.
Are you going to try to sell me on Alabama's offensive line being better than it was last year, losing Caden Proctor and Parker Brailsford? Like seems like a stretch.
Parker Brailsford, I'm not sure he totally fits exactly what. You think he's a monster?
I mean, I don't see how Alabama's better at center, and that's like nitty gritty. But I guess I think they
recruited that position very well under Kalen DeBoer so far.
They have, but you have to replace. I mean, it was an offensive line that could not run the football. I don't see how that's getting better in 2026. And now I'm just injecting a new quarterback that has very limited experience, whether that's Austin Mack or Keelan Russell. And so one stretch is you're going to get better quarterback play than Ty Simpson. I'm not sure if you're going to get that. The next stretch is the situation better around the quarterback? I don't know if it's better. I think we're still struggling to run the football. I don't know if you did anything to make me think you're going to run the football better in 2026, and you combine that with a new starting
It's
quarterback.
about recruiting the kids they recruited. I just think like you have a talent pipeline coming up now through. You had to shed a little bit from the Kalen board. Like I feel like
What
there's
does Alabama show? What has Alabama shown you from offensive line development standpoint that we can trust this unit right now?
that could be a fair reservation for sure. Because you are probably right. That unit probably did underperform last year.
I
Okay,
just don't know how you can make the argument that it's like the situation gets better around the quarterback, and then we also have a new quarterback. And look, I'm excited about Keelan Russell too. Was there a reason he was number 3 behind Austin Mack? I got question marks about Alabama, right? And I'm used to giving Alabama the Nick Saban bump. No more, no more bump. All right, BYU.
I also think Kalen DeBoer is massively slept on. I think people really like to hate on him. I think he's a really good coach. And they have a lot of talent. Secondary is really good. They have good young linebackers. Defensive line, big question there. Maybe offensive line, they're talented there at least. We'll see. I think
you should take it back. I think you should walk it back and have some question marks about Alabama. No, it doesn't matter. BYU 16. I'm a Bear guy, and look, BYU. It's a very consistent program right now. Tennessee at 17. Interesting, right? Big question mark at quarterback. Here's my 30-second elevator pitch on what intrigues me about Tennessee. Top 5 offensive line in the SEC, should be able to run the football with Deshaun Bishop. Difference makers on the outside that are only getting better going into 2026. Josh Heupel just showed me that Joey Aguilar post-spring practice can come in and be one of the better quarterbacks in this conference. Why can't I just believe he's going to do that with the young, talented quarterbacks in his room, whether that's George McIntyre, Faison Brandon? Josh Heupel has earned my trust that he's going to get the best out of quarterbacks. And then it's the defense. Did we fix it? I mean, you are reliant on some young defensive linemen. It starts with Chaz Coleman, but there's a lot of other guys. They've recruited that position well. You're going to need them to get developed. And then can Jim Knowles fix the back end? I think they did some good job in the portal. It was sneaky. It was quiet. Outside of Chaz Coleman, there wasn't a super big splash, but like guys like TJ Metcalf, if you can find a little bit more consistency on defense with Jim Knowles coming in, this team should be top 20 in the country, provided quarterback works itself out, which I have no reason to believe he ain't going to figure that out with Josh Heupel.
And they did get some reliability into that defense. Like, again, they maybe weren't star power guys, but they're guys who I think will give you more consistency than what you were getting, which, again, a lot of that had to do with injuries. But, like, yeah, you'll get more consistency at the nickel spot than Boo Carter gave you, I think.
Utah at 18. I feel like that's fair. I mean, it's got a little bit hard to expect or like know what to expect.
I'm a little lower on Utah. I feel like
I love Devin Dampier, man.
They're going to lose a ton of players, and they're losing Jason Beck, who I think again, that offense was very lost without him.
Yeah, I mean, without Kyle Whittingham,
frankly, too, for the most part. I mean,
say that again.
So they're losing most of the assistants too. So I don't think you're having the continuity there.
That's fair.
I think you lose a lot on defense. You lose most of your best players, and they're not portaling in a crazy crew. I'm a little lower, I think, on Utah.
All right, fair. Washington at 19.
Probably.
And I what'd you say?
I said this is probably where they belong, I think.
I think I'm a little frustrated with Coach Fish, man. I feel like he got a little distracted with some of these new jobs, and you have such a good quarterback, like a comfortable top 10 quarterback in the country, in my opinion, going into 2026. And I feel like we just could have done a little bit more around him, right? So because of your quarterback play, you will be a solid football team. Really like Ryan Walters on defense. I feel like there's a little bit more wood to chop that they could have chopped in the transfer portal. Penn State at 20, hard to know what to expect. Coach Campbell, you trust, and Rocco Beck, you trust. Penn State 20. That's all I got. Florida 20.
My question is, do you think Iowa State was a top 20 team last year? Because really,
I don't like that. Everybody's doing that. That is not true. It's just not Iowa State supplanted. They brought over some of the best players from Iowa State. People acting like Penn State's just going to trot out Iowa State with different helmets. It's foolish. Like they grabbed some good players. They did not grab that whole football team. They still have some players that James Franklin recruited that are still on that roster. It's the most ridiculous claim that I've seen on the internet is, oh, it's just Iowa State. Do you think they're all that good in the Big Ten? It's not the case. They brought over some really good football players from Iowa State to Penn State. They didn't bring over the whole dang roster. That's my didn't mean to.
You're turning that over. I think you're turning
Yeah.
over a lot more of that than you're implying here.
I mean,
And I
okay,
don't
then
think you have a great
what teams are you taking over Penn State at this point?
Florida, South Carolina, probably both of them.
Okay, well, I mean,
Florida,
Florida,
I
look,
think you're awfully low on. Florida might be like, and again, I may be falling into the same trap I did last year.
no,
That defense is kind of loaded. I think they did a good job in the portal, and I do think you are awfully low on Aaron Philo. So to me, I think Florida's kind of looking like really good.
my evaluation on Aaron Philo is not being low. It's that I don't know. And nobody knows.
You've seen enough of Aaron Philo. You've
No.
seen full games of Aaron Philo against real teams. I don't think like he's not as unproven, for example.
All right. So I'll concede that. That offensive, like, what's the offensive line? I mean, Dill, when I don't trust, it's not that I don't trust, but when I don't know what your quarterback position is going to be. And then on top of that, I don't know what the offensive line is going to be. If you were to tell me right now that Aaron Philo was slightly above, like just above the middle of the line in SEC quarterback tiers or rankings, and then tell me the offensive line figures itself out, they might be a top 15 team in the country. My concern is I just am not sure. Now, I do trust Buster Faulkner. I think John Summer brought in a really damn good staff. So I have some underlying confidence, a much better staff than Billy Napier had, but I got question mark at quarterback, question mark at offensive line. It's hard for me to bang the table for Florida being a top 15 team right now. South Carolina, can you expand on that?
Well, they won the battles on the offensive line they needed to win. And elsewise, I think that team was actually pretty good last year. They just were working with a offensive line that probably would rival the average high school. Again, when you're that bad in that position, it's impossible to look good. Frankly, the fact that that team was in a lot of games against reasonable teams makes me think they're awfully good, frankly, around that offensive line. I think Lenora Sellers can be extremely good. And again, you went out there like Jacarius Peak. That's a must-win battle when you're in South Carolina's position. They kind of got that one done. You still have Dylan Stewart and a defense that is retaining a good chunk of what you had last year. I think this is a good team. I think they were really debilitated by a historically horrible offensive line.
I think 24 is very, very fair. Like, you got to show me the offensive line is right. There's a lot of moving parts. And if it is right, I mean, we're having a different kind. I mean, South Carolina can be very, very dangerous in 2026, provided they got it right. I'm kind of in wait and see mode. You forgot to mention Kendall Braz, which I think is a massive upgrade from Mike Shula too. Missouri, real quick. I think it's a very good coaching staff. I think Missouri is a very consistent football team, and I think they upgraded that quarterback. I don't know who the starting quarterback is going to be.
I am very curious to see what they get from Austin Simmons. I'm not totally
or Matt Zollers. Like, I think regardless of who wins that quarterback battle, you're going to be better than Bo Prabula. Bo Prabula was a limiting factor for that Missouri offense, in my opinion. I think you get better at quarterback, and because of that, I think you can be a pretty good team in 2025. Can I call my shot with Kentucky real quick? Will Stein did some. Will Stein got some people to open up some wallets, right? Because you saw Kentucky win some battles in the portal that we're not used to seeing Kentucky win. I think it starts with Kenny Minchie, who, again, is an unknown, very similar to Aaron Philo, but I have reason to believe, Dill, that Kenny Minchie might be a guy. I mean, go back and listen to how that quarterback battle went with CJ Carr, who ended up being one of the better quarterbacks in the country. Kenny Minchie, there are a lot of people connected to Notre Dame that thought Kenny Minchie was going to win the job. He beat out Steve Angeli in the spring. You read through the tea leaves, although we have not seen it, there's reason to believe that Kenny Minchie might be a guy. They got the offensive line, I think, right? I mean, bringing in Lance Hurd and Tegra Shabola. I mean, it's like offensive line checks out. I think Will Stein's going to be able to score some points. We'll see what the defense looks like.
Well, that's what I was going to say. There's going to be some concern level around like bringing in a handful of high-end guys. You did lose a ton, if we're being honest. They shed almost that whole roster.
Yep.
Are they going to have like enough of a team? Because you're right. They did bring in some stars, and they paid for some stars. But like Lance Hurd alone doesn't really do a whole lot for you. Are they like – I'm not convinced they're a great team right now because, again, they shed I feel like you're underrating a little bit how much they lost in the portal. Like they gave up a lot of
Yeah,
really,
that's fair.
really good football players.
That's fair. I wanted to do a little call your shot. There's so many teams you could argue that could be included in these rankings. I went with Kentucky because I think they're, to be honest, still, I went with Kentucky because I wanted to talk Kentucky. I just wanted to give my thoughts on, hey, I think they got a guy in Kenny Minchie. I think they have an offensive line that intrigues me. We'll see how it plays out. All right, that'll do it. A little combative from the boys over the last 35 minutes. I like it. Like the energy. Appreciate you guys. Hey, let it rip in the comment section. Appreciate you guys, and we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.